So firstly, folks, thank you so much for joining. We have 99 people on so far. Over 230 people registered for today. But as we always know with these events, a lot of people sign up, but they are unable to attend. So we're the lucky few, which is great. Talking about people not attending, you'll notice there's one particular person who didn't come today. Can anybody guess who that is? Let's see. Anyone guess? Anyone guess in the chat?
They better guess, or else your sidekick in putting this together is going to be heartbroken that nobody sees that he's not here.
This is being recorded, so I better be careful what I say about Mr.
Yeah, be very careful. Yeah.
No,
but
go on.
No, we're all in a friendly space, right? So yes.
Yeah. Grant unfortunately couldn't be with us today. He's been double booked by his daughter, whose birthday it is. So we'll wish her a very happy birthday. And I think that's a good excuse for him not to be here. So we'll let him off today. So instead, you've got me, and so I'm not going to talk for much longer. But what I would like to say is, on today's session, please do feel free to put yourselves on camera. I think, Dan and I were talking just before the session. It would be lovely to see as many people as possible throughout the session. And there will be opportunities for people to speak back and share things. So it'd be great to see you on camera. The other thing is the session is being recorded, as I mentioned, and you can get the recording through the newsletter once I send the newsletter, and I'll send you the last 2 recordings as well, because I haven't done so. And without further ado, we have the most awesome guest today, Mr. Dan Rome, who has written some phenomenal books. And I think when Grant and I approached Dan, we didn't really think we were going to get you, Dan. We thought, you know what, he's going to think.
Oh, I'm easy. What are you talking about, Patty? Of course.
A world sort of superstar like yourself. We didn't think we would get a look in, but we were so grateful you responded. And I have to say, the sort of work to get this event on, it's been one of the most enjoyable prep sort of sessions for us, because we've learned so much from you, and I just can't wait for today's session. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you, Dan. The floor is yours. I'm in the background. Give me a shout if you need anything at all.
Patty, I will do that, Patty. And thank you so much. And all of you out there in Zoom land. Wow, Visual Jam people, thank you. There's so many of you. This is really exciting. Patty, I want to do a quick tech check. Can you see my screen okay?
All
and
good.
you can hear me all right? All right. Well, listen, all Visual Jam people, I'm Dan, as Patty mentioned, and I'll give you a very, very quick overview of myself. But what I really wanted to do today is, with all of you, go ahead and do a real jam session in kind of the most traditional or classic sense of the word, meaning I'm going to provide you with a baseline, and then I'm going to ask you to start to add on your own visual music on top of that. I am obviously a writer. I've written a series of books on the power of visual communication. I've got a new one coming out, which is what we're going to focus on today. But something I like to share now, you might see behind me in my office, I also paint. Way back in college, many decades ago, I studied painting and I studied biology. And this was back in the 1980s, a long time ago. And that's when I discovered a painter named Vasily Kandinsky, who, without a doubt, has become throughout my life my favorite painter of all time. And many of his paintings done in the 1910 through World War I, through the 1920s, and into even to the 1930s. He would also often call his works visual jams. And what he was often trying to do is say, how might we take the joy that we find in music and try to represent it visually? So Vasily Kandinsky, I thought, inspire us to go ahead and do a jam session today. So that's one of my interests. Another one of my interests is I'm a pilot, and I learned to fly when I was a kid. And today I want all of us to imagine that we are all test pilots today. And the reason is because not only are we going to be doing a jam session around some new ideas that I have, but in fact, when I refer to you as test pilots today, we're going to be testing. You will be my testers for an all new training program that I'll be rolling out over the next many weeks. And you are literally the first people to see this. And so I want to thank all of you for taking the time to join me. And as quickly as we can, in about the next 70 minutes, I want to share with you some tools, share with you where they came from, why I think they're important, and then have us test them as far as we can. I would say that there's about a 50-50 probability that we are going to run out of time, but that's okay. We'll get as far as we can. Today, you're going to need some things, and I hope all of you are prepared for this. We'll take a second. If you're not, I need everybody to go out and grab at least 5 sheets of paper, just plain old A4 letter size sheets of paper if you have it. If you have a digital device that you prefer to draw on, whether that's an iPad or a laptop, whatever it is, an iPhone, whatever you like to draw on, you can use that too. But for today, if you would be willing to go analog with me, there's real reason, visceral cognitive reasons why just going to make some scratches on paper is going to help us today. And you don't necessarily need a pencil. A pen is fine. But if you're willing, grab some paper and grab a pen or a pencil. And we're going to start drawing right now. So whatever drawing tool you have, I'm going to be using my screen. I'd like you to follow along with me. The basic rules, such that there are any rules in a visual jam, is I would never ask you to do something I wouldn't do myself. So in the case of these warm-up drawings, I'll go first, and then I'll ask you to just mimic what I do. So on your sheet of paper, the first thing I want you to do, strictly a warm-up drawing, is right through the center of your sheet of paper, I want you to draw a line from left to right with a big old arrow on it. Just draw about as flat an arrow, a line as you possibly can. Consider it a warm-up drawing, and also what you might think about is that's a pretty boring line. Yeah, that's a pretty boring line. If I were to tell a story and I wanted to captivate someone's attention, I probably wouldn't want to tell them a story that just lay flat like that. So below that line, start another one. And then as this line's moving along, make it kind of bumpy and then trickle down. So I want you to make a different kind of a line, one that's got some bumps and it ends up going down. And even as we draw that and as we say that, I'm thinking, I don't know if that's necessarily a story that I want to tell either, because when something goes down, it kind of leaves us with a lot of energy. There's another type of story down below. Let's just start our line and then just have total chaos, just swooping, crazy, crazy, crazy chaos that ends. Now that one is very disconcerting as a story. And sadly, that one tends to be the outline for which most business presentations are done. There's no storyline in them. There's just a bunch of data and facts and ideas and things that need to be reported, and they are squeezed out in the form of PowerPoint or Google Documents, and we stand on stage and go through it and wonder why people fall asleep or have their eyes roll. And then our last line up above, it starts out straight, it has some bumps, and as it goes through its bumps, it gradually ends up going up. So those are our 4 warm-up drawings, and they are schematic diagrams of what I often think about as 4 different ways to tell a story. So with that in mind, here's what we're going to do today. So I've got you for about another 60, 65 minutes, and I will do my very best. And again, as Patty said, it's going to be difficult for me to monitor chat. So Patty, if you want to, and if a genius question comes in or someone needs to say, wait, stop, Dan, that didn't make any sense at all, or I love that. Patty, if you see something coming in, let me know, because I'd like to keep this as open as we possibly can. Basic agenda is I'm going to talk about something called a pop-up pitch, and I'm going to start by sharing what it is and why would you want one. And that's going to take maybe 15 minutes or so. And then most of our time, a good 30 minutes, maybe more, is going to be spent on you creating your own pop-up pitch. And I understand you don't yet know what that is, but we'll get there. So I want you to be thinking over the next 10 to 15 minutes, and you had a little bit of prep work before this, so I hope some of you have come prepared. I want you to think of a simple story or a simple presentation or a simple report or a simple persuasion that you need to make in the near future. It could be anything. It could be related to your business. Maybe you've got a new UX design that you need to pitch to someone in your organization, or maybe you need to persuade your family to go ahead and take go to a different destination for a holiday this coming season, if you can. Whatever it is, if there's something that's an idea that's in your mind that you want to share with someone else, I want you to be thinking about what that could be, because that's what we're going to help you create the pitch around. And then the third part, and we'll use whatever time we have left over, is we'll do some sharing of our stories. I want you to imagine how this toolkit that I'm sharing with you, this pop-up pitch, might be useful for you, whether in business or in life. And then any questions you have, and we'll go as long as we possibly can, because I really, really do want your feedback. Does that sound good to everybody? Does that make sense so far? Patty, how's my pacing? Going too fast? The pacing's okay?
It's good for me, but yeah, if anyone does find it a little bit too fast for them, then please do let us know, and we can. I'll let you know. But yeah, we've got Thomas saying yes, it's fine, and Alina as well. So I think we're good.
We're going to go with Thomas and Alina. I like Thomas, and we're going to go with them. Okay.
There we go. So and Dan, sorry, one last thing. You've got some prizes to give away as well, haven't you? So just to let people know, there will be some prizes.
There are some prizes. And the technical details, Patty, you and I will figure out. But the prizes are a couple of downloads that I'm going to give you the link to. For anybody who participates, the tools we're going to be using today are available as digital downloads if you choose to continue to use these tools. And I've got something really interesting, which I'll share with you in a moment, that I'm going to make sure at least 3 of you get through the mail, talking about analog. The road so far, and this has been my road, is I've written a series of books. My first book, The Back of the Napkin, came out all the way so long ago in 2008. And about every 2 or 3 years, I've got more material that I want to share about visual communication. So I keep putting out these books. And now I've got a new one. I've got a new one that's coming out on October 26th. So just about, what's that, 6 weeks from today? And that book is called The Pop-Up Pitch, the 2-hour creative sprint to the most persuasive presentation of your life. And I'll share with you exactly how this overlaps, in my mind, with visual storytelling, because let's face it, this is the visual jam. But in our jam today, in our improvisation, I want to push us a little bit less towards the use of visuals. We're already good at that. And I want to push us a little bit towards the idea of using those visuals both to describe story and as the components of story. I'm going to push us a little bit towards the narrative and the story part of visual communication. So if I were to explain what this book is about, hey, I'm Dan, I'm here. If I could have 3 minutes of your time, I'd love to share with you what this book is about. And this is all of you saying, oh, okay, hit me, show me what it's about. Okay, I'm going to do some reading because words do matter, and you can read along with me. And I'm also going to draw as we go. So this is kind of the marketing approach to the pop-up pitch. When you absolutely positively have to get your ideas across quickly, go ahead and pop-up pitch them. What that means is in 2 hours, create the 10 pages that will transform your audience. In 2 hours, create 10 pages that will transform your audience. And by the way, another number I'll throw out you, the ideal pop-up pitch presentation after you spent 2 hours preparing it, and it is 10 pages long, you will share with someone in less than 7 minutes. That's why I call it the pop-up pitch. 2 hours to prepare, 10 slides for your entire presentation, no matter what it's about. And I'll be giving you a lot of examples today, and then less than 7 minutes to share it. So whenever you have a presentation to make, a concept to sell, or a passion to share, the pop-up pitch provides you the inspiration and toolkit you need in just 2 hours. In this all-new workshop in a book, these pop-up pitch templates, which you're going to see, will help you tell the greatest story of your life so you can capture your audience's attention, retain their focus, and motivate them to take the action you need them to take. And what else would we ever want a persuasive pitch to do? The book itself, and I've got what we call a galley version of it. So this is a pre-production, pre-printed version. The book itself will be in 2 color. It will be black plus orange color. It'll have a spot color throughout for any of you that are familiar with the printing process. And early, before the full book is done, what happens is the publisher puts together what they call these galleys, which is a bound paper version that is handed out to other authors to get their testimonials and blurbs. And then this goes to media outlets to see if any of them want to write an article about it. So I have these. And what I wanted to share with you is the entire book is structured as 2 1-hour because remember, the book is a 2-hour workshop. The first hour is how to use something we call the Visual Decoder to use your drawing skills to help you clarify your own idea before you start to write anything down. And then the second template, the second framework, is the one we're going to focus on today, which is called the 10-page pitch. So the fundamental structure of the book is in the first hour, you're going to discover your own story through simple sketching. And in the second hour, You're going to add narration and emotion to that story according to just 10 pages. Now, what I've done, and this is the gift that I'm going to send to some of you, is I had produced a limited number of actual pop-ups that show the tools of the pop-up pitch. Now, these are not going to be made available for sale. This is just something I did because I really wanted to. And as a gift for some of you who shared your stories with us today, I'm going to go ahead and share those with you. All right, so that's the basic idea. Now, why is this important? Why does this pop-up pitch matter? I want to tell you a little visual story. Let's say this is you and you have an idea. And it's a great idea, like a little gift, and you'd love to share it with other people. But you admit that your own idea is based on inspiration, but it's not particularly well organized yet. You haven't really thought it through in a great amount of detail. But if you could, if people could really understand it, you know they'd love this message that you have to share. However, presenting people with this sort of half-baked idea, people aren't going to like it. They don't want it that way. We're too busy. People want us to say, can you give me a little bit more on that? So what if you could take this idea that you have that's a little disorganized and put it in kind of a really great wrapper or a really great framework? Well, you know, you can, because others have done this before. And in a way, the templates for how to package a great idea are already known. People in movies do this all the time. People who write novels do this all the time. People who are really good at sales pitching do this all the time. This being taking an idea, which is still in rough form, and wrapping it up in a way that people, audiences want to respond to it. So the lesson is, if you lay out your idea as a journey with specific highs and specific lows that take us on a path, it's going to be really enjoyable for you to put that story together, which will make your story very clear to yourself and very, very clear to your audiences, to the point which now when you share your idea wrapped up in this story, people will not only listen to the entire story, but they will remember it. How many pages, how many slides are there in the story that I just shared with you? It's right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Believe it or not, I just pop-up pitched you. That is the pop-up pitch. Those are the 10 pages. Those are the 10 turns, the 10 moments of a positively persuasive story that you can use to present and share anything. Because the key to all of this, and this is what we're going to explore in a lot of detail today, is what I call this 10-page pitch storyline. We're going to go through it again and again. I just wanted to introduce you. That line you drew at the beginning, that kind of bumpy line that went up, here's what it is. Again, here are the 10 stops on this journey, the 10 turns. You will establish clarity with a title. You will build trust by establishing common ground. And then you will initiate fear by stating, as lovely as things were yesterday, there is a problem ahead of us. But then you will establish hope, yay, because there is an emotional win once we get past this problem. And now you really pull the rug out. Now you really hammer your audience and say, but you know what? That hope is unachievable doing what we are doing today. Sobering reality is we are never going to get that hoped for approach using the way we do things today. But just at the moment that we think all hope is lost, when we think this idea is dead or we're never going to be able to fix things, that is when we come up with an audacious new idea. Wait a minute. What if this time I tried something completely different? What if this time I really believed in what I talk about and made the decision through gusto to go for it? And then I would be able to start building courage, because I'd say, well, wait a minute, this may be a crazy idea, but it's not that crazy if you really think about it. We've done things like this before. And with that courage, you're starting to come up out of this pit of despair. And then you say, well, what do I need to actually do to take advantage of that courage and be able to move this crazy idea forward? What would I need to commit to? What would we need to commit to? What 1, 2, 3 simple things could we actually commit to that would deliver us an early reward for having tried this crazy new idea? And you know what? The momentum that that new reward gives us will drive us way, way up into this beautiful future, our true aspiration of a truly long and sustainable win whatever that win is. This is the 10-page pitch storyline. Tool number 1. We are not going to talk about this tool today, but if you choose to follow the pop-up pitch template to build that story, the first thing that I would recommend that you do is create something called the Visual Decoder, which in 6 simple drawings helps you unpack your idea. That's all I'm going to say about right now, because this would be hour number 1, but we're not going to talk about it. Because what I want to share with you in test fly is the 10-page pitch, the second framework itself. Does that make sense? Is everybody following me so far? Cool. I'm seeing heads nodding. Okay, so here goes our test flight. My first big workshop in 18 months since COVID hit us. I used to be on the road all the time. Patty and I were talking about this. Many of you probably too. We used to travel the world, get in front of a room, wave our arms, draw pictures, whether we were visual facilitators, visual recorders, visual strategists, instructional designers, UX designers, whatever it was, we used to do this all the time, and we haven't. For a year and a half, I have not done a live in-person workshop. I'm delivering my first one in 3 weeks. And I want to test fly with you because it's going to be entirely focused on this 10-page pitch. And I want to share with you, it's really exciting. Where is this workshop going to take place? I don't know how many of you are familiar with something called Jet Propulsion Laboratory. It's down in Pasadena, down in the Los Angeles area of California. If any of you have seen the movie The Martian, that was the Matt Damon movie, the book written by Andy Weir, it's probably 4 years old right now. Has any of you seen the movie The Martian? If you have, you would know about JPL. Jet Propulsion Laboratory is the division. It's a separate organization, but it is the division effectively of NASA that builds, designs, conceptualizes, and then monitors and controls all of the interplanetary exploration of the United States. There are other organizations, Goddard Space Flight, some others that do it as well, but JPL is the vendor that actually designs and builds and then serves as mission control of all of the rovers that are now on Mars. There's a giant mission that will be coming up in 6 years around Venus. There's a lot of incredible things that are going on, and they have asked me to come down and help their principal investigators, their lead scientists, use the pop-up pitch as a way to quickly describe ideas around upcoming space missions. Did I not mention I'm a pilot and I'm a total space geek? I'm so excited I can barely contain myself. And what I want to do before I go down and work with the scientists is run with you through how the lesson's going to go. Tool number 2 is the one we're going to focus on, the 10-page pitch. I drew it a moment ago as this 10-turn line. We're going to see that again. But in order to turn that into an actual storyline, I've broken it down into the discrete and specific 10 pages, 10 slides, 10 instances, 10 frames of the full journey. And we're going to come back and forth because what you're looking at right now, here are the 10 slides. They're exactly the same as the 10 that you saw in that drawing I showed a moment ago. These are the 2 digital templates. They are available for you to download. This is literally a PowerPoint template in which I have pre-created the entire 10-page pitch with the headlines already built in. Effectively, if you want to try this as a way to build your next presentation, you can literally download the PowerPoint and then put in your own content. And the content will follow these 10 slides, follow exactly the 10 moments, the 10 steps of this journey. You can find these digital templates right here. Go to danrome.com. Please don't do it right now because I want to keep your attention. Time's so limited. But as soon as this call is over, go to danrome.com. On the homepage, about halfway down the homepage, right here in the middle of danrome.com, you're going to see the 2 tools downloadable right there. What you'll need to do, I do need your email address. Just log in with your email address. Nothing else is required. And then after you've put in your email address, you're going to get a link right on that website that will allow you to download those images. They're digital files. One is a PDF. One is an actual PowerPoint deck, that presentation template that you can open up. Enough of the details. Let's talk about the 10-page pitch and storytelling. Patty, quick check-in with you. Following so far? How are we looking? Things good?
Perfect. We're up to 111 people, and I've put the link in the chat as well, so people have that to hand.
Perfect. Okay, and I'm looking over the list. Wow, a lot of people. Okay, so here we are on the roll. Let's talk about storytelling now. These are the 4 storylines. You already drew them. Let's take them from the middle. A flat storyline is such a boring trip that nobody cares about the outcome. Do not make presentations that are flat. Do not tell stories that are flat, please, because nobody cares. That's the presentation that nobody wants to see. No more reports. Don't do them. If someone says, I want a report, don't give them a report. Say it's in my email. If I'm going to take the time and you are going to take the time to actually meet face-to-face or through remote, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not going to give you a report. The report works fine on email or something else. Just send me the deck. But if we're going to take the time to work together, make it interesting. One story you could tell is this bumpy line that goes down. It's an interesting trip and it leads to a negative outcome. I'm not a believer in negative outcomes when it comes to persuading people. And there's a lot of science around it too. Although there is a lot that is in the news these days that leads us to believe the entire world is crashing around us. Everything is awful. That's not true. There are a lot of things that are not good, but there's a lot of things, and I don't mean this in a facile way, I mean it for real. The world is actually in a pretty remarkably, incredibly good position in many ways, not in everything. I recognize there are challenges, but what I'd rather do is not tell a confusing story. I would rather say there are bumps ahead of us, but if we are willing to meet in the darkest places and agree on our courage and our commitment, we will come out of it. I think that's the history of humanity, and I'm with it. This is the story I want you to tell. And to show how powerful that story is, I'm going to tell you a story. And normally I would never advocate on a Zoom call that we read the screen. But in this case, it's a short story, and I'm going to read it to you. Maybe this would be like a bedtime story or something like that. Hey, Visual Jam people, I have a story that I want to read to you. And we're going to call it The Non-Hero's Journey. And for those of you who want to, pay attention to where we are in the 10-page journey as we go through, because I'm giving you the secret right now. The story I'm about to tell you, again, follows the 10-page pitch line for line. Here's our title, The Non-Hero's Journey. Once upon a time, there was an American kid growing up in the farmlands far outside of town. Like many kids, he felt a little lost, but found joy in reading comic books, watching Superman on TV, and drawing a lot, especially cars. When he was old enough to drive, he got a sporty little Fiat and drove it everywhere as fast as he could. The freedom he felt while racing that car gave his life a sense of direction. Then one day he crashed the car. While he was wrapped up in the smoking wreckage, his heart stopped and he died. But bystanders got him to the hospital. The doctors managed to revive him, and his parents helped him recover. And after that crash, that kid felt like every day he'd been given an extra day. Inside that gift of extra days, he began to notice that people who worked together did better and experienced more joy than people who worked against each other. And over time, he increasingly knew that that was a story he wanted to tell. At college, this kid read a book about anthropology, and the author of that book said, "Follow your bliss." And to the kid, that sounded right. The kid had always loved taking photographs, so he got a camera and took photos of everything. And before long, bliss found him. This kid's photos were pretty good, and he got a job as a photographer, and he decided to make that his career. But instead of taking still images, photographs, he decided he wanted to make movies. The kid went to film school and fell in love with every part of the movie process. And he started making his movies, and then he ran into a problem. You see, he wanted to make optimistic movies that told stories about people working together to achieve great things. But the nation, the United States at that time, in the 1960s, was in a very bad place. And movie studios believed that adults only wanted to watch cynical and pessimistic movies. So the kid made a choice. He wouldn't make his movie for adults. He would make his movie for kids. More specifically, he would make the movie for the kid that he remembered himself being, the 12-year-old who was looking for direction in a world that was too big for himself. And as he worked on this story, he remembered that college anthropology textbook. In that book, the author talked about how so many myths from around the world share a similar storyline, and how cultures throughout history had used that single common story template to teach and share the most important lessons of life. The kid reread that book as he crafted his script, and he used that author's template as the basis for his movie story. It told the bumpy but up story about a team that worked together to literally save the universe. And history proved that that bumpy but up story was a wise decision. The kid, of course, was George Lucas. The movie was Star Wars. The book that he read was Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And the story template was the monomyth that Campbell had unearthed, had constructed, had seen, and was further known as the hero's journey. And together that changed history. And now we're going to do the same thing for business pitches. How? With your bumpy but up story template, which too will begin with that hero's journey, but only this time for non-heroes, for all of us. Isn't that quite a story? Here's George Lucas in 1967 with his little race car. Here he is a couple of weeks later. He died during the crash. His heart stopped, and then they were able to revive him. And it was that story that I just shared with you that brought us what has become arguably the most successful movie franchise in history, watched and adored globally. This is what George Lucas said just a couple of years ago. They're myths. The things that I'm telling you, they're myths. Instead of having a set of laws, our rules for living come down as a story, which is so much easier to absorb. Joseph Campbell, many of you are familiar with. Joseph Campbell is the fellow who throughout the 20th century traveled the world and didn't create, but again, kind of unearthed this idea that so many myths throughout all of human history around the world shared that same story arc. And he referred to it as the hero's journey. And many of you have seen this before. Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey have almost become a caricature now. I don't care. There's something absolutely profound and powerful that we can learn from in this and use it. So basically what Campbell was saying was, the world exists in two planes, and he drew it as a circle. Here's where our visual stuff comes in. Above that line, we're going to call the normal world. And below that line, we're going to call the supernatural world, or the world of wonder. And the story begins here. And at position X, it moves this way, it moves counterclockwise. At position X, a hero ventures forth from the common world and into the world of supernatural wonder. And in that world, fabulous forces are encountered and the hero wins a decisive victory. And then with that win, the hero comes back to the regular world, to the common world. The hero comes back with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Yes, there's a lot of sexism in here. There's a lot in here that is questionable, but the fundamentals of the story are absolutely profound and really, really make a lot of sense when it comes time to trying to persuade someone to take an action they might not normally take. And it's not about being heroic. That's a misunderstanding of this notion of the hero's journey. It's about living your life fully. Carl Jung was quoted all the time in Joseph Campbell's work, talking about the fact that the hero's journey isn't really a story about achieving something. It's the story about growing up and leaving home and going out into the world where things you learn from home might not be enough, but you have to learn more things, and then you come back home again with the lessons that you've learned and you share them. What I've done is I've taken that hero's journey, I've combined it with some good old-fashioned Dale Carnegie, if anybody's ever heard of him, good old classic American salespersonship. How do you positively persuade someone to do something without being aggressive, without being salesy, without being pushy, without driving them into a corner? Treat people well, take the positive, listen well. I wove that into, and then I wove in some behavioral economics, which is basically the idea that we now know enough about the crazy decision-making processes that we as humans have, how we are so profoundly biased, how we think we're objective, but we're really not. We know a lot about that. And it's knowing about behavioral economics that you can begin to build models of how to tell a story so that you can pretty much guarantee people are going to react positively to them. So this storyline, the 10 turns are the hero's journey, combined with how do you positively persuade someone, combined with how do you deliver a story in a way that is essentially guaranteed that someone will respond well to it. There's the template. and we're going to go through it right now. When you download the template, if you choose to use this PowerPoint, you're going to see something like this. It's literally the 10 pages, and each page is identified. What is the piece of content that needs to be on that page, and what would you headline that page? It's going to take you through all 10, and then it's going to end, and you'll find that the diagram is in there as well. I want to give you an example now. How are you all doing? Are we following along well? All good, Patty? Okay, so I've shared a lot with you. I know that, and I know I'm going quickly. And I want to make it real by giving you an example, and then you're going to make your own. So I want to give you an example of 10-page pitch for a real business case. And I'm going to give you a little bit of context. There is a fellow named Moses. That's not his real name. I've changed the names to protect the innocent in this particular case, but this is a real story for a real company that I worked on about a year ago, and is one of the core stories within my book, The Pop-Up Pitch. So Moses is a scenario planner in a large enterprise level software company. And Moses needed to tell a story because his organization had created a very thought-provoking white paper at his IT company, and he needed executives at large client organizations to download and review that white paper, because he believed that the contents of that white paper were critically important to business people during the time of COVID. So I worked with Moses, and instead of taking a long-winded, very IT sort of engineering focused story on how would you do this and why is it important, we just told it as a story. And I'm going to share that story with you right now. And once again, as I go through, to prove that this works, if you enjoy how this sales story goes, I'm now going to give you what traditionally would have been a hard sale, giant corporate IT company making a pitch, but I'm going to tell it in the same story that I already shared with you about George Lucas and about how to give your own presentation. And again, you can follow along with which slide are we on in the 10 pages as we go. Here's the title. And Moses decided to call his 10-page pitch, Regaining Confidence Amidst the Chaos. Scenarios can help you navigate global uncertainties. Here's our common ground, what you and I have in common. The past couple of years have delivered unprecedented uncertainty for all of us, and especially those of us who lead organizations. This is you. The world has broken, and it's full of uncertainty. We have that in common. We all know that. That's not the problem. Here's the problem: triggering fear. The problem is, while we've been making do, these uncertainties continue to mount. And as the crisis, whether it's COVID or political crisis or social crisis or climate crisis, as these crises continue, we can see that our scrambling to keep up is increasing, and it's eroding our fundamental confidence in how we used to be able to plan for the future. We don't feel like we can anymore. The emotional win. But imagine what it will feel like when we can again rely on the experience and decision-making abilities we've spent our careers building. How great is it going to be when we get to the other side of this? But you know what? We would love to be able to look at this situation, not have to think too hard, and simply use our existing judgment, intuition, and experience to make the right call, but we can't. This is the false hope. What we have done in the past will not work this time. Why? Because this time, this is real. This is really big. The whole world is shut down. We ain't never seen that happen before. But here's the fairly audacious reality, the big move. But what if, rather than business as usual planning, what if we adopted a field-tested wargame approach that strategic think tanks use to help define global futures and applied them to our business scenarios? Hey, we can do this. We've done it before. Our company has created something we call the Big Three Futures Map that makes it easier to navigate this crisis with confidence and opportunity in the chaos. We've identified the three uncertainties. We've identified the three ways over which we nominally have control over monitoring those. We've identified three time periods, now, near term and longer term, and combine those with the three tensions that are out there and how businesses operate. And if you map out your business according to these, if you can take our scenarios, assess their likelihood in your geography, you can immediately begin with confidence to build a new strategy. Using this Big Three Futures Map, you'll be able to play out how your own customer needs are likely to change, both during the crisis and as we move into the next normal and beyond it, and begin to start making decisions again from confidence. This is what will make you one of the smart ones who knows what to keep doing, what to stop doing, and when to pivot in a new direction as this new business world emerges upon us. As this crisis fades and the new world of business comes into focus, using this approach, you'll be in a position of strength, new operations and even business models already in place, while frankly, others are still reeling. We can't promise answers or solutions, but if you use this approach to map things out, we know that you will be able to find your confidence. How'd that feel? Did that feel like an awful pitch? Downloads came in by the hundreds of thousands. That was what he presented. I've given you 3 examples today: a little cartoon, the story of George Lucas, and this giant IT pitch. They're all exactly the same story. They're all exactly the same story. I'm going to say it one more time. They're all exactly the same story. It's your turn. I need you to grab 3 sheets of paper. Everybody grab 3 sheets of paper. And I can tell you right now, just looking at the time and the amount of enthusiasm and stories that I've shared with you, we are going to run out of time for all of you to be able to complete your 10-page pitch. It doesn't matter, because we're going to build the template, and then we're going to unleash you on being able to build your own. And then the first 3, Patty, we need to figure out how to make this happen, who are able to photograph and submit their 10-page pitch. They are the ones who are going to, I will personally mail this pop-up version to. So here we go.
Sorry, Dan, on that one. If I post a LinkedIn link for you guys, and then if you guys paste your stories into there, then the 3 that get the most likes by this time next week will get the prize.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. Okay, everybody grab your 3 sheets of paper. Here we go. I want to give you a time check. We are going to go for another 20 minutes. And during that 20 minutes, you are going to create your first 10-page pitch and get started filling it out. And then we will have time for questions and answers. So take those first 3 sheets of paper. And what I need you to do, we're going to do a little origami. We're going to go absolutely analog. With those 3 sheets of paper, I want you to fold them together, stack up all 3 together. And then what I want you to do is fold them as best as you can. You don't need to be super precise. Into thirds. Someone needs to mute. Patty, can you help me out on that? Okay, thank you. So then what I need you to do, you folded them twice. Flip it over, because what you've done is you've created a little pamphlet, a little 3-page pamphlet that's 3 pages long. So you've actually got 3 stacks of paper. I want you to flip it onto the back, and I'm going to do this along with you. On the back side, in the center, I literally want you to write what you see here on my screen. I want you to put the number 1, write the word title, write the word clarity, and then draw a little clear star, a kind of a North Star. Do not yet write the title of your story. The first thing we're just going to do is set up the template. And this is an analog version. This is what I'm going to do in workshops. I don't want people downloading PowerPoint in workshops. I want people there. I want them present. And we're just going to do it strictly analog on a sheet of paper. But we're effectively going to do exactly the same 10-page pitch. When you are ready, when you've written exactly what you see on my screen here, I want you to turn it back over. I want you to take your stack of paper and turn it back over on the inside. And now in the upper left-hand corner, right here at the top, you've got 3 columns. We're going to fill all of them in. Column number 1, the first column rather, is number 2 at the top, because number 1 was on the back. And I want you to write the word common ground, which evokes trust. And then go ahead and draw 3 lines, 3 nice wide horizontal lines representing the ground upon which we stand, the firmament of the earth, what we have in common. That's where we're going to start our story. In the central column, we're now on to element number 3, and I want you to write the word coming problem. The emotion that this page is meant to evoke is fear. So go ahead and draw us a little explosion. Boom. we are intentionally going to evoke fear in our audience. It's the second most powerful emotion after love. We're going to evoke it intentionally. And I did it in every one of the presentations I shared with you. In the final column, in this stack of paper, we're now going to establish hope. On the other side of fear, there's hope. So write down emotional win, which evokes, elicits hope. And go ahead and draw a little heart with an arrow coming towards it. Oh, my heart feels better. There's hope at the end of this. Yes. So let's review. This was the beginning, this first spread. This was the beginning of our story. And we said, things are okay, but they're about to get bad, but there's hope on the other side of it. Yay. That's the beginning of our story. Take your second sheet of paper. We're going to continue on. Take your second sheet of paper. We're going to repeat the process now. Top left, sheet number 5. Number 5 is the false hope. Sobering reality enters the picture here. That hope that we felt, it's not going to happen if we just keep doing things the same way. Reality is that boom, boom, boom. We're on a path going down. This sucks. This is awful. Now you'll notice what I'm doing is I'm intentionally evoking you back and forth between emotions of downs and ups. This is what causes people to pay attention. This is why we pay to go see movies. This is why we hate most presentations, because they don't evoke any emotion in us at all. Or if they do, it's unintentional. This is how we fix all this. This is how we make this the best presentation of your life. Now, point number 6, we're at the midpoint. We're at the midpoint. We're in the bottom of hell right here. Reality will not let us achieve the hope that we wanted to, but wait a minute. Wait a minute, kids. Use the force. Trust in yourself. Try something different. Remember the story that your grandmother told you about how she survived some awful conflict. Remember, you survived by not doing it the same old way. Point 6, this is the turning point. This is where we say, I'm not dying today. Audacious reality. Build gusto. Show us that bright light bulb of what is the idea? What is actually going to save us this time? What is the real answer? Not the fake one. What's the real answer? Can we do it? Point number 7. It's not a question anymore. It's a statement. We can do this. This is where we build courage. Go ahead and show us a courageous little smiley face with a bunch of arrows coming up. Yeah, we can do this. How do I know we can do this? Because you know what? It's actually not that crazy an idea. Why not try it? What have I got to lose? I'm already at the bottom of this barrel. I'm already at the end of my rope. What have I got to lose? I can actually do this. Next sheet. We're now into the end game. We're into the final act of this 3-act play, beginning, middle, end. And in the beginning of the final act is we have what we call point 8, the call to action. All it is what are we going to commit to start moving in the direction of this bold new idea? And keep it simple. What are 2 or 3 things that we need to do right away to begin to move us in this direction? We call this the commitment. And you can go ahead and just say it as 3 check marks. Yep, we're going to commit to doing that. We're going to do that. And we're going to do that. Not giant things. The ultimate goal is giant, but what are some little things that I could do right now to start moving in that direction? And here's the reason why that's important. Slide 9, middle column of that 3rd page, because you're going to get an early benefit. You are going to get a reward right away. A simple one. You're not going to get the full win, but you're going to get an early reward. Something wonderful is going to happen. In the case of doing a 10-page pitch, I can tell you the early reward from committing to simply filling in these 10 pages as you tell your story. The reward you're going to get right away is that you will know your own story better than you have ever known it in your life. And it took you about 15, 20 minutes to get there just by filling this in. That's an incredible reward. I now know my own story better than I ever did. Wow. which brings us to the end of the end, which is actually the beginning of whatever comes next. Slide 10, page 10, the long win, the true aspiration. When we have achieved this new bold approach, we truly do get the sunshine to come back up again. It truly is a new day. We truly are going to make it through this. We truly are going to survive, and not just survive, we're going to friggin' thrive. And that's why we need to move forward with this approach.
Sorry, Dan, I just had there's a question from Amit regarding, was the title on the back of the first sheet of paper?
Yes, it was. So that when you're done, good question. When you're done, you're going to fold the whole thing up and you're going to put it in your pocket. And when you are done, you're simply going to say, I'm going to tell you the story of the non-hero's journey. Here's where we are today. Here's the problem that's coming. Here's the hope on the other side. Here's why that hope's not going to work, but here's the amazing thing we're going to do instead. And here's how I know we can commit to it. Here's all we need to do. Here's an early reward, and here's how we're going to win. End of story. So it's a great question. That is exactly the structure. So what you've just done is you've created your own little 3-page book that is, I love it, Fabricio. So the title is The Last Shit. It is. And in fact, it loops right back again, because here's what you do. When you're done, you go back to the title. You start with the title and you go through everything and you end me right back with the title. And that's why this was the non-hero's journey that's going to make you a hero. That's the shit. Thank you, Fabricio. I love it.
I think that was a typo. Was this on a sheet? I think Fabricio might have done a typo.
It's the shit. Well, we're all friends here. I'm going to say it. I'm out in California. I can get away with this. That is the real shit. Good. All right. And that's the story. Okay, folks, we've got time to do it. Before we do, I wanted to share with you something that completely blew my mind. I don't know how many of you have ever heard necessarily of a guy named Ed Catmull. And Patty, are we still good? Rolling, continuing to roll? See me?
Yep.
Okay, so Ed Catmull is an interesting character. Ed Catmull is the creator of something called the Pixar Pitch. Why? Well, he was the co-founder of Pixar along with Steve Jobs and John Lasseter. He was the third of the 3 people who founded Pixar. He then went on to become president of Disney Animation and has won 5 Academy Awards. Ed Catmull got a copy of the pop-up pitch. And here's what he said about it. He reached out to me and he said, Dan, I think what you've written is amazing. Dan Roden's art of visual thinking and presentation is a wonderful creative tool and is well worth mastering. I was like, what? Holy smoke. I think we've tapped into something here that's powerful. We've got the creator of the Pixar Pitch, the creator of Toy Story and Bug's Life, Monsters, Inc., saying this is a really, really great way to tell the story. I'm like, wow. So with that behind us, you're going to do it now. Take that sheet of paper that you've already labeled, and we're going to go as far as we can. We're going to go as far as we can. We're not going to get through all 10, but we're going to probably make it our way through about 3 because I want you to get wound up and see how to start telling this. What I want you to do, I'm going to start a timer in 1 minute. I want you to come up with a title for the story that you want to share with us. And you don't have to be clever. You don't have to be Hollywood about it. I just want a simple title that says, what are you going to be talking about in this story? So what I want you to do for 1 minute on your own is do the best that you can and for yourself, right here on that sheet of paper on the back of the outside, give us a title for the story you want to share. I'm going to keep talking as you do it, just maybe inspiring. I hope it's not clutter. Let's say you want to present to your family the idea of a new trip. Your title might be, Why We Should Go to Italy This Year. Or let's say you want to present something at business. This is my latest UX design. Whatever it is, just give us a title for the story you want to tell.
And Dan, there's a question from Lisa to say, could you show the example of the title you used before?
Yeah, one of the titles I said before was Why Your Presentation is Very Important. That was the one for the first one. The second title I gave you for the George Lucas story was The Non-Hero's Journey. I just called it that. I'm going to tell you a story about a non-hero. And the third one was In Times of Crisis, How to Build Your Confidence. But I don't want you to be super clever about it. This is your title. This is the story. Imagine that you're going to pitch your family or your friend on your idea. What would you call the idea that you want to share with them? So don't overthink this. And of course, you can always come back and give it another title. And what many people find useful is to hold on the title. And back to the question we had earlier, you can, if you want, save the title for the end and make it the last thing after you've filled in the others. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and open up your page, open up your 10-page pitch, and where you had written common ground, what I want you to do in 1 minute is write in here something that you have in common related to your story with your audience. We all like going on vacations, or the world is a dark and scary place, or we all love going to the beach. What I want you to do is make one quick statement. I'm going to start the clock right now. And I know this is new to you, and I've only given you a few examples, but here's the trick. If you download the PowerPoint from danrome.com, in the PowerPoint, in the speaker's notes, I put all the details for what you might want to think about to help prompt you how to write this. But the basic idea is in this section right here, you want to say something that says, I'm the presenter and you are the audience, and we have something in common. What is it that we have in common that we share? As you think about the story you want to tell and think about the person to whom you're telling it, think about something that you have in common with them. Something good, something good. It's common ground. This is the firmament of the earth. This is something that we're standing on together and we can agree on. Now, after 1 minute is up, we're going to move on to the problem. And now in that central column in 1 minute, what I want you to write is, although we have this thing in common, we like traveling, we like spicy food, we all want our business to be a success. Whatever that thing was that we have in common, I want you now to introduce a problem. For example, we like traveling, but the world is still largely shut down. We can't take the trips that we used to take. Or we like spicy food, but our favorite restaurant's no longer open. Or we want our business to be successful, but we all know that our customers are not responding in the way that we want them to. This is your chance to actually state the real problem. Take the gloves off, as we say. I know that's idiomatic. The idea being, think about the favorite stories that you remember as a kid, whether it's Roald Dahl or Dr. Seuss or whatever it was. This is the inciting incident. This is the problem that we need to, this is real. I'm going to tell you right now, there is a problem. And because I've been negative by giving you a problem, behavioral economics tells us that I've now set my audience's mind in a negative direction. I'm not going to persuade anybody of much of anything when they're in a negative direction. So now I need to bring it back up. And so in your next third part, remember our emotional win. But what is our hope? Imagine, we all like to travel, but we can't travel because airports are closed down because of COVID. But imagine how incredible it's going to feel when airports are open again and we can go anywhere we want. Imagine what it's going to feel like when our favorite restaurant has opened back up and we can go there. What we're doing here is we're countering the negative energy that we put into that third point by providing a more positive outcome. On the other side of this problem, think how great it's going to be when we can do what we want to do. I see from Anita, the master plan on the website does not seem to allow download. Link does not work. And what? That's a problem. That's a big problem. Anita, thank you for calling that out. As soon as I get off the call, I'm going to check into that. It should be working. I tested it this morning. You put in your email. It should be working. Annabelle says no problem. Sid said it worked. Okay, Anita, try it again. input your email, and then what happens is after you do your email, it's going to say click here to make the download. We're getting, okay, it looks like most people are having no problem doing the download. Anita, I don't know what the problem might be on your case. Refresh the window, enter your email address, and try it one more time. Sorry about that. Okay, back to the story. Y'all with me? Because here's what we've done. Common ground. We have this in common. The world's okay. Oop, there's a problem. We can't travel anymore. But imagine how awesome it's going to be when we can. And now we turn to our next section. And this is the simple prompt here for is, you know what? But we are not going to get to do that amazing hoped for thing if we just keep doing the same old stuff. Look, if airports are closed, we're not going to be able to achieve that hope. We're going to have to do something else. So what is the actual sobering reality? This is the one that hits really hard. If you think back to those favorite stories or movies, you know, the hero, the protagonist achieves a victory and you think the story's over, but it's not, because you realize that victory wasn't the real one. That was just a step. But now comes the real dragon. The real dragon is says, I'm going to kill you. This is the real dragon. This is the real beast that will not let you achieve that hope, because what you have done in the past is not going to take care of things this time. This time is bigger. This time is worse than before. Now you're in the pit of despair. And now comes the big turn. And this is the last one we're going to do together, because this is the turning point. This is the turning point. If you can't go on the vacation that you wanted to, what could you do instead that would help you achieve that hoped for feeling? Think differently. Think more broadly. Well, maybe what we could do, I'm just going to make this one up, if I was pitching my family on taking a new trip. Maybe I said, you know, we had planned to travel to Japan. We'd really hoped to go to Japan, but we can't. It's still closed down. We can't do it. Just buying a ticket and flying off to Japan and making sure we have our passports is not going to do it. Well, what would happen if we brought Japan to us? For example, what does that mean? Well, what would happen if we recreated our entire house to look like Tokyo, for example? And I'm just making this one up. What is a bold move that we could take this time that will achieve what we wanted, given the constraints of the real world that we have right now? What could we actually do? And then once we start thinking about that, hey, that's actually really cool. If we were going to bring Japan to us, what else could we do? Well, do we know anybody who lives around here who's from Japan? Could we invite them over? Could we set up the whole place? Could we hire a chef? Could we go shopping at a market that has Japanese food? What would that be like? Could we go online and order a kimono? Whatever it is. Oh yeah, we can. We could do that. 1, 2, 3. We could start to do those things. And I'm using the example of a trip, but it doesn't have to be. It could be about our business. And in just these last couple of minutes, you know where this is going to go. Then you will say, in order to do that, what do we have to do? Well, I will go online and I'll order the kimono, and you contact our friend and ask him or her if they're willing to come over, and we'll start decorating the apartment. And the immediate win we will get, the immediate reward, is we'll start to feel really good about what we've done, and we'll start to redecorate our apartment, which we've wanted to do all along anyway. And what is the long win? The long win is we'll realize that one day we'll be able to go to Japan. We might not be able to do it now, so we're going to bring it to us. And knowing that we can do that, think of how many other things in life we can do by thinking in this way. And there you have your whole presentation. And all I wanted when I began this particular presentation was to convince, you know, someone in my family, let's go have a really, really nice meal. And now I've done it. All right. We are out of time. That brings you to the close of your 10-page pitch. We don't have a lot of time to finish it out. So here's what we're going to do. What I'd like to do is spend the next 5 minutes, because I know we've got a hard stop coming up in 15 minutes. I've got 5 minutes more available. What I want to do is just open this up for feedback and thoughts. And if there's anybody who has any comment or any question or any thought, I'm basically done. That was the end of the session. So my request of you, download the templates, and it looks like it's working. Anita, the master map is in the PowerPoint download. The master map is already in there. So if you download the PowerPoint, the master map's in there. Thank you, Benoit. I really appreciate that. Here's what I would ask for your consideration. And this is going to sound a little bit salesy, and I don't mean it that way, but I mean this from my heart. I want the pop-up pitch to do really well. I think that there's a message in here that is powerful for not just business people. Obviously, it's focused as a business book audience, but I really do believe, in my experience in the last decades in the business world, perhaps the biggest and most consistent common challenge that all of us face is how do we share our most important ideas with other people in a way that they understand and remember. And for many of us, for me in any case, I'm imagining this is true for many of you, one of the solutions has been to draw more than we talk, to provide visuals. That's the whole point of Visual Jam. How can I be more effective in my own thinking? And how can I be more effective in sharing my ideas? By drawing them, because we know how powerful that is. I want to amp that up a little bit. I think there are tools in here that are important to people. I would love the pop-up pitch to do well. The book is available on October 26th in the United States. I believe that is true as well for the UK and Europe. That is my impression. The book is available in the UK. It's only in English in its first edition, but it will be available. And I'm just showing Amazon, but it's going to be available on all the major booksellers, digital and analog. It is already available on pre-order. If anybody is interested in reading the full details, I would so encourage you, if you are willing, to go ahead and buy the book now. And here's what happens. Every sale that takes place before the publication date, which again is October 26th, if you order the book now or anytime between now and October 26th, it will be shipped to you in North America and I believe in Europe on October 26th, and you will receive it within a day or two after that. But any sale that takes place between now and that publication date counts as a sale on that date. And the more sales that we can have on that date or in advance of that accumulate, the more likely it is that the book is able to attract attention from more and more people. Chantel, South Africa, the book is available in South Africa because in English-speaking places, but I can't tell you exactly the pub date. I don't know globally all the dates, but go ahead and check. Let's admit it, whether you love Amazon or don't love Amazon, Amazon seems to have the greatest, some of the most successful fulfillment and logistics right now globally. So go ahead and just check your local Amazon and let me know when it is available. Gemma, you're right. This whole thing has been a 10-page pitch, not to get you to buy the book, but to get you to think about using the 10-page pitch as the tool that you use to tell the best story of your life. All right, I'm going to need to roll off here. Patty, do we want to take a question from anyone just in the next minute or two?
Yeah, that'd be great. And there was just a quick question regarding the book from Heather, who said, is there going to be an audio version of the book?
There will be an audio version of the book. It is not going to be available on October 26th, and I don't have the formal pub date for that either. But there will be an audio book version of it.
Awesome. Okay, Chantal's got her hand up.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Chantal.
I actually managed to get through all 10 slides in like an incredible time. And I wanted to ask a question. As I got to the long win, I was wondering if I started with the long win, I probably would have been much more focused.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I started at the end and said, okay, this is definitely the long win I want, how am I going to
Oh, Chantal, you are such a genius, because the fact is, for more advanced storytelling, you do start with the end in mind. There's a classic refrain, begin with the end in mind. You're right. If you can identify what is the long win from you and work backward to today, that is one of the most effective ways to fill this in too. You are so smart. But it worked for you, yes?
Yeah, I did. Absolutely.
And just tell us, what is your long win?
So my long win is to really help companies increase their team's performance and be purposeful and to be proud of their work and have joy and achieve their goals individually and as a team.
That's a great driving purpose. That's fantastic. And then you were able to work backward from that and fill in the other 10.
Well, I didn't work backwards, but when I got there, I went like, sure, it probably would have been more powerful if I started there. So I just felt like intuitively that would have been like a good starting place.
Thank you. As a test pilot, Chantel, you have given me insight into how I will present this. As I do this, the next workshop there at JPL, I'm going to actually ask them to start with the 10th slide and then go back to the beginning. That's genius.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Patty, I need to run. I know you do as well. I want to thank all of you Visual Jam people. This was spectacularly enjoyable for me. I hope you found it useful. And you know how to reach me. Here, let me give you all my social media tools. Here's all my social media contacts. If anybody needs to reach out to me for any reason, I'm happy to listen to what you have to say. Patty, share us, how can people share their pictures so that I can get them these in the mail?
Yep. So I've put a link in the chat. It's a LinkedIn post. So feel free to post them in the comments there. And the ones with the top 3 likes by this time next week will contact you through LinkedIn. So that's how we do that. But Dan, I just want to say a huge thank you. I know you've got to run, I've got to run. I know many other people probably got to run, but if folks want to come off mute and just give Dan a huge round of applause, because I think he's done an absolutely amazing job today. So thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
I think there was a lot there to cover, and I know time was limited, but I will be sending out the recording as well via the newsletter, so folks can watch it back and then maybe do it at your own pace. But you will have that if you subscribe to the newsletter. So thank you once again, Dan, and thank you all for joining us. I can't believe we had almost 100 people until the very end. Normally, people sort of start to frazzle